Hi, Boa. Welcome to 10 Minute Talks. I'm Harshadeva.
For this week episode, I'm really happy to welcome Professor Roger Mac Ginty. Roger Mac Ginty is leading scholar in peace and conflict studies. He's a professor at Durham University's School of Government and International Affairs and the director of the Durham Global Security Institute. He is widely known for his work on peace building, especially the relationship between top-down and bottom-up approaches to peace. His research explores the idea of everyday peace, looking at how ordinary people live with, navigate, and sometimes disrupt violent conflict in their daily lives. Professor Mac Ginty co-directs the Everyday Peace Indicators project and edits the journal Peacebuilding. His latest book, Everyday Peace: How So-Called Ordinary People Can Disrupt Violent Conflict, has made an important contribution to how we understand peace beyond formal negotiations and institutions.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you for joining me. So, I will go to the questions. My first question is, in your work, you discuss that non-Western peacemaking often prioritizes stability and state sovereignty. What would it take for these approaches to become more inclusive and transformative rather than just producing short-term peace?
Well, I think first we shouldn't underestimate the importance of stability and security. Many societies that are impacted by tension and violent conflict really would give anything for stability and security. And that's the minimum requirement that we need for other things, peace building, more expansive forms of peace to develop. You can understand why many non-Western peacemaking states prioritize stability and security. They've had very violent pasts and they see democracy and rights actually as a way towards division and instability. So it's worth trying to understand where non-Western peacemaking states come from. At the same time, those of us who prioritize issues of rights and representation should not stop talking about the emancipatory value of more expansive versions of peace. We should still try to prioritize women, peace and security, youth, peace and security, those UN agendas. But I think we can think about peace in an incremental way, and some form of security and stability has to come first, and then other forms of peace, more expansive, more emancipatory forms of peace, hopefully can come later.
Thank you, Professor. My second question is, how can non-Western peacemaking move closer to everyday people's realities rather than remaining at the level of the state and elite?
I think there is a task involving all peacemaking to join up, bottom up and top down ways of making peace. The crucial element in peace is some form of minimum livable security in which people can get on with their lives, in which you can send the kids to school, you can get food on the table. That's the bare minimum. It's important, though, to think, how can we make peace more expansive? How can it be more inclusive? How can it be more emancipatory? And here, rather than links between the top down and the bottom up, it's worth thinking about the horizontal spread of peace, how islands of peace at the local level can become an archipelago, how, in a sense, the peace landmass can broaden. And here, really, I don't think that individuals and communities are waiting for the state or for an international organisation or for an INGO to make peace for them. Instead, peace entrepreneurs, leading individuals in a community, first movers, social entrepreneurs. These are the people who very often take charge or the first movers in this horizontal spread of peace. I think there's probably too much emphasis amongst international organizations and INGOs on factoring up. In fact, the emphasis should be on factoring out this horizontal spread in which individuals and communities find their level. They find a way of getting by. This is not the peace of unicorns and rainbows. It is not an idyllic, romantic space. This is a hard peace in which people have to make a living. People have to put up with injustice because we're never going to resolve the peace versus justice conundrum. But they have to find a way to make their lives and their community lives work.
Thank you, Professor. My last question is, you have shifted from focusing on elite peace processes to everyday peace. Was there a particular moment in the field that changed how you see peace or peacemaking? And how did that shape your thinking about people's role in peacemaking?
I began studying peace processes largely at the elite level under the mentorship of a wonderful scholar called John Darby. And he really was the leader in thinking comparatively about peace processes. This was in the late 1990s, at a time in which there were negotiated settlements, in which there were expansive peace processes. And John and I and many others studied those processes. But it became clear as we moved into the 2000s that many of these peace processes and peace accords were not delivering. They weren't delivering to people on the ground. Often, if you looked at post-peace accord societies, you saw a sullen population, a population that was disconnected with elite politics, disconnected with democracy. So I thought it would be interesting to look at the levels below the elite, to look at how communities made peace, how they lived and enacted peace through everyday activities. And that was really my beginning at looking at notions of hybrid peace and notions of everyday peace. And it's interesting because now I'm particularly interested again in how elites make and break peace. But it's important, I think, that we try to look at peace in a multi-level way. It doesn't happen in isolation on the ground or at the elite level. There needs to be connection between the two. Everybody needs to give peace or a way of life meaning through how they live in their everyday lives. And that applies at the elite, at the bottom-up level, and all of those levels in between. I think the lesson I've learned over this long academic journey is that you cannot look in isolation at one level. You need to look at multiple levels along the way.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you very much for joining me. It was wonderful to talking to you. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Great to talk to you.